All right, folks. Hello and welcome to Launcher Live, the only Launcher live stream on the internet right now. My name is Mikhail Klimentov. I'm an editor at the Washington Post. With me, I've got Mike Hume. Say hi.
What's going on, everybody?
And we've also got Gene Park. Say hi, Gene.
Happy Friday, y'all.
Yeah, truly.
Finally
Happy
Friday. Oh my goodness, this was a long week.
Friday
Aren't they
at
all?
last.
Mhm.
This one felt especially long. I don't know what it was, what was in the air. Maybe it was pollen, but truly an interminable week. I don't know how it could have possibly been as long as it was. Speaking of things that are long in the making, long coming, we just got a Mortal Kombat movie.
Yeah, we did.
Another Mortal Kombat movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I know that both Mike and Gene have watched the Mortal Kombat movie. First impressions, how is it?
Mike, I want to hear what you think because everyone knows what I think. So,
That is a good point.
or maybe everyone knows, but I can reiterate. But yeah, I want to hear what you think first.
I mean, I thought it was good. I mean, it's campy as hell, but of
Mhm.
course it's campy as hell. It's supposed to be campy as hell. It's great.
Mhm.
Is it something I'm going to rewatch? Probably not.
Mhm.
Was I like hooked by all the plot twists? Absolutely not. Did I go hell yeah when Sub-Zero made a dagger out of Scorpion's blood? Hell yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's why you watch. You watch it for the spectacle. It's a movie that it gets drunk on itself, and that's what you're there for. I mean, you reviewed the characters individually this week, which I thought was really interesting, Gene. And like some of the characters were really great. Like Scorpion's my favorite by far. Scorpion's Sub-Zero. But Sonya Blade was an interesting character. I like what they did with her conceptually. I don't know why she was living in a trailer like a
I don't know
crazy
why
person.
they were so determined to make her out to be poor. Like,
Yeah,
there were a lot of poor jokes, like classist jokes about Sonya, and I was like, why are they ragging her about being poor? It's kind of funny, and I liked it, but it just came out of nowhere.
It seemed like an odd decision, to say the least. But I mean, yeah, as far as spectacle goes, and like how to spend a Saturday night with a couple beers, like it was great.
I think you really hit the nail on the head on the hell yeah, because like, if you're just mildly paying attention to the story, and it seems like that the movie isn't really interested in the story itself anyways. And then like the hell yeah moments come, the big reveal comes, or the fighter comes in, or they do the big splashy move. And you just want to. It's like a sporting event, or it's
Totally.
it's like an MMA fight, really,
Yeah,
Like if you enjoy that stuff and you want to see fireballs and blood, then you got it,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're the kind of person that watches a movie and is just like, I wonder why they did that. Do not see Mortal Kombat, because none of those questions will be answered, and you'll just be sitting there asking questions to yourself the entire night. If you're the type of person that likes the MMA, likes the gore, likes the spectacle, likes somebody taking somebody's arms and freezing them solid and then ripping them from their body, absolutely watch Mortal Kombat, because that is where the good stuff is.
Yeah, because I think my favorite tweet about Mortal Kombat was, like you said, Sub-Zero froze a man's blood and stabbed that man with his own blood with a frozen dagger. And you guys want to talk about dialogue, And it's like, he said, "Get over here." That's all the dialogue we needed,
Seriously, that's the only thing he says in the game. So I mean, I don't know what else you need.
Yeah. Fun fact: it was always Ed Boon in every Mortal Kombat that says "Get over here." It's never whatever the voice actor is. They always reserve "Get over here" for the creator of Mortal Kombat, for him to say that. But for this movie, they made the actor, and I'm forgetting his name, unfortunately. They made him say "Get over here," so that was a little different.
That's interesting, and then that now that you say that, it does resonate differently. I mean, because it's just such an iconic. Can dialogue be iconic? I guess so.
Yeah. I mean, the timbre of his voice. I can't even do it, but "Get over here." It's different from the way the actor said it.
Absolutely.
Sub-Zero was fantastic. Joe Taslim Have you guys seen The Raid?
No, but I've heard good things. I actually
Oh,
really want to check it out.
you guys really need to see The Raid. If you people, if people were expecting Mortal Kombat to be The Raid, I can get the disappointed, because
Mhm.
if you want to see fights that actually look like they're real and they're actually extremely painful but artfully done, then The Raid is it. And Joe Taslim is one of the main characters, and he is he gives a phenomenal performance. He's not the main character even, but he's one of the good guys. And it's just such a great movie. I highly recommend. It's just 2 hours of just straight violence. That's it.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
So you mentioned the main character, and we have Rainbow Gaming in the chat saying Cole needs to be an MK12, Coltrane.
Coltrane.
I'm
That needs to be a
curious.
thing.
So I think it is a thing. We have it hashtagged here in the chat, and I'm sure it's not the first reference to it. For some reason, when you guys were talking about the Mortal Kombat movie, I also remembered Godzilla versus King Kong. And a lot of these movies, in like monster movies, you'll often have like human stand-in characters that the plot follows around. And here in Mortal Kombat, we also had this like random guy who is also around, I guess, Mortal Kombat's fighting monsters. I'm curious about, first of all, whether it works, whether Cole is actually like, does he merit inclusion in Mortal Kombat 12? Like, does it land? Is he a good character?
So I didn't review him because he's not one of the Mortal Kombat characters. He definitely didn't work as a person who is like really interesting. He was obviously supposed to be the audience surrogate. He's definitely supposed to be the human character of this Godzilla versus Kong experience. And Sonya, Jax, Sub-Zero, they're the monsters of this Mortal Kombat verse, right? So Cole and his family were the humans. I didn't hate his wife and daughter. Mostly because he didn't do much, but I only remember because the daughter did like a Karate Kid like yell at his dad, like, use your uppercut, dad. And then like he did the uppercut on Goro, and then spoilers, sorry. And then and then I kind of loved how corny that was, because it was a callback to the earlier when the daughters was like, use your uppercut, dad. It's like,
sweep the leg.
Yeah, sweep the leg, put him in a body bag, and it's like his daughter was doing that. So I appreciated that little like little corny like combat tournament like dialogue that they gave. And the mom wasn't terrible either, because she was like, screw like me waiting around for another forearm guy to, so that was kind of fun. Cole just really didn't have much to do, he was mostly just confused. And nobody really gave him any answers until like he became like the Cole fighter, a Cole caliber fighter, if he's in future Mortal Kombat games, I wouldn't hate it, but then they would have to. The reason why he's in Mortal Kombat this movie is because they wanted to. Greg Rousseau, when I interviewed him, they wanted to have a new thrust to tie the movies together, right? So the movie is based on the combatants are chosen through this tattoo or birthmark that you get of the dragon or whatever, and that wasn't really part of the Mortal Kombat universe. In the Mortal Kombat games, everyone just throws fireballs because they trained that hard. It's not because you were definitively chosen to be able to throw fireballs or shoot lasers out of your eyes. So Cole was basically a vehicle to explain why everybody can do powers. And I feel like that wasn't completely necessary because the movie even barely explained that too. So,
Yeah, and that's my thing too. Where it's just like, who cares why the dude can make swords of ice? Like, he can do it. That's all you need to know. Is like Sub-Zero can control ice and do bad things with it. And that's what I want to see from Mortal Kombat the movie. You're right. You're like, I don't care about the origin story of somebody's powers or how they like harness their chi enough to shoot lasers from their eyes, like you're talking about, Gene. Like, I just cut to the chase. Like Marvel superhero movies, like, do we really like if they make a Spider-Man movie that doesn't include him getting bit by a spider? It's not
exactly. it almost feels like an addiction to like the MCU superhero origin formula, right?
Right.
Where we're like, whoa, how how did? To be fair, I would love an origin story of how Scorpion was able to survive hell and mastered the fires to be able to come back to vengeance. And you said Scorpion and Sub-Zero were your favorite. I think they were everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
When Scorpion came back in the movie, like I breathed a sigh of relief. I was like, oh. Like the most interesting part of the movie is back again. Like thank you,
Totally.
So.
And I think you put this out on Twitter, Gene, but like if we had just a straight up Sub-Zero Scorpion movie, I'm there for sure. Yeah, I buy it.
Totally with those two actors.
Yeah.
Intro sequence, which I think everyone knows of how the rivalry started. Like it was like a different movie,
Yeah.
it was compellingly shot. Even the fight scenes were edited a little better. Yeah, it was like a completely different movie, and I think we love to see that versus what we got. So
yeah, I agree that the opening scene was the strongest in the entire movie for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely, from the marketing, it felt very much like what they wanted to do was bring a bunch of new people into Mortal Kombat. Like, this is the Mortal Kombat thing. Like, you can come in here in a way that would have been harder to do if they had started with, here's the story of these two, like, really important characters in the franchise who a lot of people already love.
Mhm.
But, like, that idea might not turn out new people. But
Mhm. Yeah, I see what you mean. It's clear that they were trying to go for like this is Mortal Kombat for a wider audience, which is why we have this mixed white Asian guy as the lead with his peaceful family in suburbia, so you can relate to, versus a Chinese guy and a Japanese guy at each other's throats for hundreds of years. Less relatable, but if you make it a good story, people are gonna love it, though, right? But that's where creating by committee kind of falls short, right? Because it's like two Asian guys fighting each other. I don't know about that. It's like I think people will love that. So.
Well, especially the way they did open this movie, like family's at the core of that too. And I won't, we've already spoiled some of this, so I'll try and restrain myself. But like, family obviously plays a large role in that. Like everyone understands family. Like that's a universal theme. I don't know why they didn't just lean into that. I was really excited that was the first part of the movie because I was like, all right, sweet, we're gonna get more of both of these characters throughout the movie. And then, I'll try. You don't.
Yeah, you don't. When I saw it in trailers, I was like, this is just gonna be like a flashback that we just gotta go forward. Like it's probably gonna be the intro, and then it was like, oh yeah, it's the intro. So it's very predictable.
Yeah.
But
I'd also had like a couple beverages by that point in the evening too. So it took me like 5 minutes to realize that Cole was not the baby in that scene. It was just like, oh, okay, I got it now. But yeah, it took me a while.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
No, I was going to ask. This is not a particularly pertinent point, but like, does this movie go down better in a not completely sober state, Mike?
I've only watched it while drinking beer, so
okay,
I have to put the scientific process to use. And
that's your assignment for this week, where now you have to rewatch the movie.
I will say that having seen it and knowing what it contains, the thought of watching it sober does not appeal to me. Like the idea of watching it again does not appeal to me. But like it's also just because I watched it.
You skip forward to the fights. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I've done. I rewatched it, but only the fights that I liked, even which is mostly Sub-Zero versus Scorpion. So.
Yeah. I'd watch that. You're right. I'd watch that again, Gene. I don't know if I'd want to sit through all 2 hours of it or whatever.
I think that if you are the kind of person that Mike mentioned earlier, who is always asking questions about wondering like how things are, then you should not watch it sober to kind of suppress that temptation to question things in the Mortal Kombat universe. You should not.
It's very much like the Cats experience, I think. Similar but different. I think that's we wrote. Who wrote that story for us? I forget.
Oh, Mora.
Yeah.
Who watched Cat Stone? Yeah,
and that became a thing. Like it's not the same degree. We're not obviously advocating that, but
It would be a good beer movie though, because
Yeah,
like we mentioned, it's like a sporting event. We're
it-
watching the heavyweights, Jax versus so
yeah.
and so, Reiko, I guess.
And that's what I wanted. Like, I missed this not being in theaters. Like, the idea of paying $20 for it at this point was sort of like, but I would like to see it in a movie theater where you get the hoots and the hollers and it's like the reaction of the crowd. Like,
Mhm.
it would, for the spectacle reason. Like, I think that would be a really fun way to enjoy the movie. So,
Mhm.
God willing, we're all back in the theaters at some point in our lives.
And a lot of people have mentioned this point, but Sub-Zero was a great horror movie villain. The way he would just pop up like in your window and be like, "Surprise, I'm Jason" or whatever. Or like the way he would stalk like American suburbia and just like freezing the streets and like he literally kills people at an ice cream store. That's awesome. Sub-Zero kills people at an ice cream store. I thought that was fantastic, and just the way he would just show up like Jason Voorhees was probably the best creative decision of the movie.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Well, I will maybe watch it eventually. For me, the experience of this kind of movie is like I will pay the money to go to a theater with my friends and like we will shoot the shit while it's going and like have a nice time. The idea of sitting down on the couch, like watching the movie solo, I don't know about that. I'm not 100% sure. This strikes me as this sort of movie that's going to be a classic in the genre of like I will watch clips from it on YouTube a bunch.
Yes,
Like
yes,
the algorithm is going to surface the big fight scenes for me like
for sure.
twice a year, and I'm going to watch them and be like, maybe I'll watch this sometime, and then never watch it.
Yeah,
But
well, yeah. Just watch the fight scenes on. That's a great way to put it. Like that, it's gonna live on in clips forever.
yeah.
Which the original 1995 Mortal Kombat doesn't do because it's a great movie.
Everyone should read Gene's sort of Oscar rankings of video game movies from way back when,
Oh
from the
yeah, that's
last Academy
pretty cool.
Awards, not the one that just happened, but the ones before. Or maybe even before that. How many Academy Awards have happened in the
I don't
pandemic?
know.
Have
Well,
we
let me ask
had?
you this, Mikhail. Did you like Godzilla vs Kong?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay.
That's another one of those movies where I planned on watching it with friends. Like we'd all get on a call together and we'd watch it. And then just like it fell apart or we watched something else. I think we watched Tenet like that. We watched Wonder Woman like that.
Mhm.
And those were fun from the perspective of Wonder Woman is awful. Like we're
Yes.
constantly talking about just like the baffling stuff that's happening on screen. Tenet was similar in the sense that like we were constantly asking questions of like, okay, is everyone caught up on what is going on with this movie? We just haven't gotten to Godzilla versus Kong.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to reconvene the group and we'll watch something soon. But
It's
I haven't seen it yet.
it's a fun movie. I think it's definitely Godzilla. I think between the two, and they both cater to similar things, similar mindsets. I do think Godzilla vs Kong is just a little bit more of a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Even though it only has two characters that you actually care about versus Mortal Kombat. But I don't know. It's funny that Kong was a more fleshed out character. Has a more fleshed out character arc than Cole does.
Yeah,
So-
no, that's also very true. It's sad.
it's absolutely true. We find out so much more about Kong's like mentality and his background and his history, the history of his people, versus Cole, who is married and he sucks at MMA, and then now he's like the number one the guy that's going to keep Earthrealm together.
Yeah. So true. And Mikhail, I just have two words for you to remedy your little problem here, and it's
Okay.
double feature.
Yeah,
double
no,
feature.
double features are huge. Well, they were big for my friend group before the pandemic. I think we watched Aquaman and Bumblebee back to back,
Ooh.
and we went to different theaters because they weren't playing them at the same one. But when we got to Bumblebee, the theater was completely empty. So it was just me and my friends in one of those like small, I don't know if you guys have been to Atlantic Plumbing, but they're like pretty small theaters.
they're tiny.
And so we just sat in the middle and just like goofed off the entire time because the theater was completely ours. But yeah, very familiar with the double feature lifestyle. And I'm just hoping for their swift return.
It's funny. I watched Tomb Raider, the one starring Alicia Vikander at Atlantic Monitoring.
Oh,
Mm,
Yeah, it's funny that we think of that theater as like a little bit more indie, but then we've
yeah.
watched Tomb Raider at it.
Yeah, I'm thinking now the movies that I've seen there are Uncut Gems and Bumblebee. Just like
Very
Yeah.
similar
bafflingly
films.
different
Yeah.
movies. All right, well, how about we pivot? I don't have a good segue for this. How about we pivot to Returnal?
Yeah, a little horror genre, a little overlap there.
Mhm.
Vaguely, yeah. In the same way that Scorpion is a villain.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with Returnal these days. Gene, you're our Returnal correspondent right now, and Mike, I know you've been dabbling in Returnal.
Mhm.
What is going on in Returnal world right now?
So Returnal is a PlayStation 5 exclusive title by a second-party developer, Finnish studio Housemarque, and they've mostly been known for shoot 'em up or shmup games. And Returnal is their kind of like first real foray into the big budget AAA space, while retaining still their shooter identity. So Returnal is a game that stars a middle-aged woman. Great. She goes into space and she's basically enters a roguelite type situation where she has to fight through a planet to find a radio signal that has something to do with her past, and she dies over and over again, and you start back at the beginning. So because it's a roguelite, I love roguelites. And I love, to me, I came to this thinking, oh, this is PlayStation's Risk of Rain. And if you don't know, Risk of Rain is an indie title on PC that's just fantastic as a roguelite. It gives you different classes, it gives you so many different weapons and planets for you to visit, and it's very, very fast action, and it's cooperative. So I thought this might have been that, but it leans a little bit closer to being that and also more of a AAA game, like trying to tell like a story. So it almost seems like that. I don't think that it quite works in the way that they hoped it would. Um, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The controversy right now is that the game won't let you save because the game is hard. You have to be able to even get further in the game. You have to commit probably at least like an hour or two of your time um, to even get to a place where you can probably stop playing, or where you can safely die because you've gone far enough, and that's fine for you to die, and you can kind of teleport back to where you left off at. But if you never get to that space, then you're just kind of boned, right? And also, even if you want to fight a boss at the end of like the second or third level, and I never made it past the second level. If I want to realistically fight the boss at the second level, I probably have to play through the whole first level again just to be able to get the RNG, the random power ups that I would need to be able to be powerful enough to take on a second boss. So that's just going to take up more of my time just to fight to the second boss. So that's why it was really, really hard for me to finish the game, because like I can't dedicate 4 or 5 hours of my night to just playing this. I'm just not that kind of gamer, um, and a lot of folks are doing that, and so now there's the Get Good crowd that's crowding the Reddit and saying, this goes against the grain of what roguelites are, which also ignores the fact that a lot of popular roguelites like Dead Cells or Hades or even the original Rogue game let you save mid game. Risk of Rain didn't, so there's clearly examples where people have seen where you can't save, and Risk of Rain will let you do that. And then other folks are like, well, what about like raids, like MMO raids or like Destiny raids? It's like those can take 3 hours and you can't save. You have to like sit down. And it's like, okay, well, like a game like that, or even Risk of Rain, which is cooperative, I can get my friends all together and we're like, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna beat this run. Like we are dedicating ourselves 2-3 hours for the night or all night to try to beat it. So I don't have any other plans. Returnal is a single player game, so a lot of people have expectations to be able to play it. You absorb some of the story. You're like, oh, cool, that's what's happening with Celine, and then you're able to put it down. But you can't. You have to just kind of keep going. So
yeah, that
like you
last
just started playing, right?
yeah, that last little bit, Gene, is exactly my one pretty much only complaint, which is I never know when to start playing it because I never know when I'll have to stop playing it. Like if I pick up the controller and I'm making a run, like until I get to I don't know at what point I've gotten to the checkpoint where I can like, okay, now I can put this down. I can safely like log off and not worry about losing my progress. Like, there's no indications of that. If there is, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, really, the only indication is, and again, this is like Housemarque and Sony trying to expand the roguelite genre into the AAA space, right? The AAA space, and make it. If you're not familiar with that, then like maybe you wouldn't know that once you get the sword, you can actually just die and start all over because you got the sword and that's like a permanent upgrade, right?
Yeah.
But you get so few permanent upgrades in Returnal, like 1 per level, and there's only 6, right? That if you don't get through the midway point to find that upgrade, then you're kind of boned anyways.
Yeah.
And even if you do, you're gonna have to start all over again anyways. And those upgrades, like the sword, allows you to cut open bushes that will have like other power-ups in there. Again, it's more RNG, but at least you have more chances to roll for certain power-ups, and that's how you can buff yourself up. But it takes a long time to get to those areas and explore. And the game is beautiful, and for me, like I was walking through the level slowly when I realized that I'm not playing the game the way I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to be dashing through these levels really, really quickly, and I should not be admiring the scenery, this beautiful scenery that they set up. So it just feels like a game that isn't really at odds with each other, but like I can see those conflicts start to happen. Like the game isn't messy in that like these two design concepts don't really work together. They almost made it work, but I can feel the clash happening, at least in my brain. I guess for other folks, it really would it might click better. But for me, like it just felt like I don't know if I should be appreciating the game or I should be dashing through it. And it feels like the game really just wants me to dash through it. So,
well, it strikes me that there's also this other conflict of like the PS5 doesn't have games right now. And the one game that they just added, which is Returnal, is not friendly to the types of people who they were kind of pitching the PS5 to, which is, I mean, they added the whole tips system because their thinking was people are going to want to sit down and like maybe they don't have time or they don't know how to do a certain thing, and so they're going to watch or like follow the guides that are built into the PS5 to learn how to do this thing. We want to put as few barriers between people and actually playing the game. And here you have, I don't know, the PS5's like third unique title that is unique to the PS5. And it is not really, it doesn't seem to be that welcoming to players who aren't committed to a grind, to like setting aside a lot of time to play the game, which like part of it I'm sure is just because of the pandemic, because schedules got disrupted, because like nobody could have anticipated the past year looking the way it did. But it's still, it strikes me that there's this weird tension there. And I don't
you
know.
bring up an amazing point. That's something that I was kind of thinking about, but I think you put it together in words better. And you're right to recognize maybe this isn't exactly what they planned, right?
Yeah.
But the tension does exist right now, because right now the only two PS5 exclusives are Demon Souls and Returnal. Two very, very unwelcoming games. This isn't exactly Mario Party and Mario Kart 8, So it is interesting to see Sony try to like Jim Ryan saying we need our IPs to work better for us and expand our player base and our audience base, but a roguelite, a punishingly difficult roguelite, and Demon Souls, that the game that started the whole Souls genre, isn't really the way. You're catering to the core group, and even I didn't like Returnal all that much, So it's like. So I don't know. I don't know, but Returnal does come at a testing time when it is the only PS5 game.
It almost makes me wonder if they should have an update where they introduce a version of a save mechanism, if that's even possible, where it's just like, okay, if you die, you still lose your progress, you go back to square one. That's fine. If that's the dynamic you want as the game developer, that's fine. Games like that are great. They're also not accessible to people like me who, like, I have 2 kids, I have a wife, I have a job that takes me more than 40 hours a week. Like, if I know that I'm going to sit down in front of a Returnal and I have no idea how it's going to end, and I likely know it's going to end with me dying and being frustrated and then having to go back to square one, like, it doesn't make me want to go pick up the controller again, which is too bad because, like Gene mentioned, the rest of the game is beautiful. It is really fun. Like, I enjoy playing it, even though I haven't gotten past square one yet. Like, I think I unlocked the first permanent upgrade, but I haven't gotten to the end of the first biome.
Oh, the alternative fire, right?
Yeah. So, so that to me is like, there should be some sort of a middle ground. Like, eventually, probably like after a couple of weeks, I'm gonna give up and say, like, I'm just not good enough. I can't hack it together, and I don't want to sit down for 4, 5, 6 hours to try because I just don't have that time. So I think it would be welcoming to have some sort of happy medium, and if Sony sort of introduced that into the game. Also, Gene, one question for you, because I experienced something last night when I was playing it briefly, and I hadn't before, and that is there some sort of a piece of equipment that gives you a second life? Because I swear to God, I died and I came back in the same.
Oh yeah, I don't know exactly what that is, but I did die once, and I just like popped right back up again.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, lucky, and then I died right away again.
Yeah.
Because I was too busy trying to figure out what the hell just happened.
Right.
You know. And the game is so busy. My friend Skill Up on YouTube talked about the active reload system, where if you reload just in time for the little timer on your reticle, then you get like extra powers or whatever in your bullets, right? Which is great. But then the game is so busy that I can't pay attention to like the middle of the screen is basically like black because I'm too busy looking at the size of the screen to see what's gonna hit me. And like where I'm going, so like I'm not paying attention to that. So like he was like, I'm missing every single active reload because like I guess just like rubbing your belly and rubbing your head at the same time, like you just can't do that at the same time sometimes. So yeah, like, and the funny thing is that the game allows you to go back and forth between like up and down level. So like if you go to the end of the first level, you can easily just teleport back to the first level or back to your ship. So it's surprising that they didn't allow for like some kind of like save point that you can just like warp back to at least, and then you just have that one temporary save, and then like if you want to start again and then quit, then you lose that save, right? But at least if you have a good run and you got to go do something, okay, let me just save the state right here, turn the PS5 off, and then we can start again. Just like Mikhail said, with a tip system, which allows you to just pop back into a game. This game won't let you do that, but it'd be nice if they allowed just one save state to go back to, and then if you try again and you lose, then you lose that save state. You can't go back to it. You start all over again. That's fine. That's what a lot of roguelites do. It's just something to respect our time. That's it.
Jedi Fallen Order had a mechanic that actually, compared to this, was actually extremely accommodating, which was, all right, you can find one of these save spots and you go into a Jedi trance or whatever. I forget what he does.
That's Dark Souls. That's the Dark Souls bonfire mechanic, where if you find the save point in the bonfire, then you just start all over from there.
Yeah, and they respawn all your enemies. So it's like if you just clear the stage, like you're gonna have to re-clear it. But like, hey, at this point, fine, whatever. That they bake that into the story of Returnal, that every time she comes back, the map has changed, the world has changed itself. So I don't see the problem where if you got to like a save spot in the game, like you couldn't just do that and then the world changes and you got to fight more enemies and whatever. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, so Returnal seems like, again, Housemarque is a shmup studio, and they seem to be mostly attuned to making arcade games. And I don't think a lot of people realize that Returnal was an arcade game. You got to pop those quarters in, and you better have a lot of quarters to stay put and finish the game in that one sitting. Otherwise, try again the next time you stop by the arcade, the Returnal arcade. Because
that's a great comparison.
It's just an arcade game, and you really got to dedicate your like a lot of time and patience to it. And like I think a lot of people are just going to be surprised. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm just really uniquely bad at the game. But
yeah. Well, speaking of arcades, a vestige of the '80s, of gaming in the '80s. Mike, tell us about Verdansk going back to 1984.
I thought you were calling me a vestige of the 80s.
I would never. I would never.
Yeah, so big news in Call of Duty Warzone. We touched on a little bit last week in our stream with Xavier Woods, aka Austin Creed. Big event. Time has reversed itself to sync up with Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. It's now 1984 in Verdansk, which means a lot of the more modern features do not yet exist. The stadium is no longer domed or blown up. It is now under construction and looks like a little bit more scaled down, sort of like a college size soccer arena. The downtown is still under construction. The airport is intact and has a second story that you can walk through now in its entirety. They've added a couple other points of interest. Gora Summit, I believe, is the big one. Replacing the dam, has some cable cars. And the talk coming into this was that they were taking the easy way out. That like Activision and Raven and Infinity Ward were somehow just like, oh, we're just going to put some like 80s textures on the map and like call it a new map. And like that's just not true. It's very different. It plays different. The points of interest play very differently. The stadium especially is really fun. Like I really like the stadium area, and then downtown too. Before, when you were downtown, you were either on the rooftop sniping, in a stairwell trying to push the snipers, largely unsuccessfully if anyone has mines or is camping the door, or you were on the ground running and scrambling for the next point. Well, now like the tops of those buildings are under construction, so there's like 2 or 3 different levels of those that you can get into. That you have more flexibility. It creates more shooting lanes, and it's really fun. And for the other big change as far as the map goes is it feels like the circles are ending in more interesting spots. Like it felt kind of random in previous versions, but now there's a lot more open area endings where you can't just hide in a bush until the end. Like it's going to push you into an open spot, and you're going to have to hit your shots if you're going to want to win. Like you can't just wait around a corner and then blindside somebody. So I think they did a really good job with the map. They also introduced Rebirth trios Resurgence trios into Verdansk. So the mode that you could only play formerly on Rebirth Island is now in the big map as well, which is a nice little variation. So I think they've done a pretty good job, and I'll stop talking now in case you guys have thoughts of your own. But the weapon balancing also big improvement there.
You mentioned Raven earlier, and when you wrote your big feature about the creation of Verdansk, that was posted to the Warzone subreddit. A lot of people really loved it, but one of the recurring themes in the comments that I kept running into was, we hate what Raven is doing with the game. Why are they managing it the way they are? Why isn't Infinity War at the helm? Like, what is going on? And I guess to an extent, that's my question to you. Like, do you have any insight into, why the management of the game changed? Why Raven has taken a kind of front seat? And in part, like, why do people dislike what Raven has done to the game so much?
So let me start with the dissatisfaction, because that's the easiest thing to discuss. So when they integrated the weapons from Black Ops Cold War into the game in Season 1 back in December, it was completely broken. Like all of the meta guns that had existed from Modern Warfare basically went out the window. There were 3 guns that were viable. You had the DMR, the Diamatti, and I'm forgetting the third. But that's probably for the best, because there was really just you had to run those guns. If you didn't, like, forget about it. You're already dead. And it's taken a long time to get it to the point where there was a viable meta that was more than 3 or 4 guns. And now that's the case with Season 3. So hopefully that'll address some of the dissatisfaction, because it was prolonged, and the complaints to some degree were warranted. I think that they bit off a little bit more than they could chew at the early outset. Addressing the part about what the plan was and why Infinity Ward isn't just running Warzone, it's because they can't. From the outset of creating Warzone, Raven has been involved. They've had developers on the team testing gameplay, testing weapon balancing. My thought is that this has been, sort of the handoff has been planned almost from the outset, because Infinity Ward has to go make another Call of Duty game.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's a shock to anybody, but they were pretty much pulling double duty. No pun intended. That was a terrible pun. Sorry. But like when Modern Warfare came out, like they piled Warzone on top of that. Like they pitched that in the middle of their development cycle. So that's a lot of work. Like Warzone is huge. Anyone that's played Warzone knows how much work goes into maintaining that game. So it's more than one studio can handle. And so here's Raven. Okay, and Raven's also involved in the development of Black Ops Cold War. Seems like a neat handoff. My guess, and this is just a theory, this is not based on any reporting, is that when they first developed Warzone and pitched Warzone, they didn't really know anything about integrating it with the rest of the franchise installments, or whether it was going to be free to play, or they hadn't thought about the business side of things at all. They had basically just thought, this is going to be a fun thing that we can
do. New battle royale mode, Warzone, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just like Blackout
like
was
Black
for
3, yeah.
Yeah,
So
for Black Ops 4, yeah.
and Black 4, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that I think was the plan. It's just like, this is cool. We should do it. We can do it. Oh, we're doing it well. Let's put it in, and then it becomes massively popular. Like you're over 15 million users in 3 days, I think. And obviously it comes during the pandemic, so the popularity sweeps it up. And I think that gets the pandemic part leads us to the broken weapons part. Like this has been a really challenging year for everybody, and game developers are certainly among that crowd. Like there's a lot that they're trying to do for the game that I'm positive, without getting any sort of confirmation from the developers, that like it's a struggle. Like there's a game engine that runs Warzone that is a different game engine that runs Black Ops Cold War, and now basically they're recreating the guns from scratch. And so rather than taking an existing product essentially and porting it into a different game, that's to rebuild the gun and weapon tune the gun from scratch. Like that's a big process, and not one that's solvable early. Should it have been solved before they integrated the weapons in the first place? You could probably make that argument. Like, would it have killed everyone to wait another 2 months for the Black Ops season to begin? Probably not. But people want what they want, and they want it now.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the way the Monster Hunter games are being built, because in Capcom they have 2 Monster Hunter teams, and the 2 teams basically trade off, which is why they have like a bajillion Monster Hunter games, because it's a much neater handoff, because the 2 creators of Monster Hunter are basically split across the 2 teams. So you're always getting the original vision regardless, whereas Call of Duty is just 2 different studios, and and now we're hearing more studios are being folded into the Call of Duty family. So I think that's what Activision is trying to do, and obviously it seems like that they have so much interest in mobile too, because Call of Duty mobile is huge, and I'm sure they want to keep that training going too. So
absolutely. I mean. We think Warzone's popular. Call of Duty Mobile has 300 million downloads. Like that's just mind blowing. And it's just we get as we get focused on the U.S., but like it's not the U.S. It's worldwide, and people love Call of Duty. It's a good game. Like it's a well-known established.
I like the mobile game. I actually like the mobile game better than the main game actually. So
I tested it out. Goodness, it was. E3 must have been 2018, 2018, I think. Maybe 2019. I forget. But yeah, I was stunned at how well it played. And we didn't have any sort of attachments for our phones that they gave us. Like it was just here it is, use your thumbs and touchscreen controls, and like it worked really well. And they had already had a battle royale mode alongside the multiplayer.
They did. It was already fleshed out. So
and that makes me wonder if they can use that blueprint going forward with Warzone, where it's just like, this is the game. It is. We're putting various contents and skins and cosmetics in the game, but like it's all the same engine, it's all the same like developer that's doing it. And I wonder if that's, they just have a dedicated Warzone team formed at some point in the future.
I
And oversees
wonder, and
everything.
this is just me thinking out loud. I wonder because there was so much controversy over how Blops 4 didn't have a single player campaign, and I was among those people who were like, "What? I love Call of Duty single player campaign, right?" But now I wonder if we've progressed past the need for a Call of Duty single player campaign, even myself included, because and then there's all this controversy over 6 Days of Fallujah, right? And how it portrays real life situations, and Call of Duty continues to basically still do that every year, right? They could just avoid that controversy altogether by just giving us a war like a multiplayer only game, and it's like, okay, well, this is just soldiers game, that's it, no story except for whatever superhero soldier story we're making for Warzone,
Right, exactly, and like they have some of that lore baked in. They had during the Modern Warfare cycle, they had like intel missions that you could go around and they give you a little cutscene.
I loved that actually.
Yeah, it was great. It actually moved. I like that more than the campaign story, frankly. But I think they could do a lot there if they really wanted to invest in it. The one thing I've been disappointed in is like with the season 3 is like they had this Hunt for Adler stuff where you could parachute in and find these supply contracts, and then you try and find pieces of intel. Basically, they're just supply stashes that you have to open all 3 of them like a scavenger contract, and then you get a little reward. And if you do all 3 of them, you got the Adler skin that they introduced to the game. But they could have just had like a really cool like put Adler in the game, like put him in a bunker somewhere, and then like the last contract you complete, you get the key card. I completed the all 3 contracts. It didn't even track my progress. That was a bummer. So I got the skin through Cold War tasks, but like that's a really cool opportunity. And if they start doing some more stuff like that, that would be really fun. I'd have a blast.
And it would decrease the load times for future updates if there's no single player campaign to with their bloody high textures to fit in there, so it would solve the space problem, the controversy, image problems, and also hopefully maybe resources for them too.
No, I think they do have a challenge that they have to solve for.
Maybe that could be a take. And maybe society has progressed past the need for Call of Duty single player campaigns.
Yeah,
it feels as though there's. It's not a bad idea.
The audience.
It's not a bad idea at all. I think there's a prestige element attached to it of like, oh, we can attract. I don't think they did this with Black Ops, but like for a lot of games, they were hiring really high profile talent to be in the story. They had Kit Harington at a certain point. They had Kevin Spacey at some point.
Oh yeah, Advanced Warfare.
Yeah, they've tried to hire big talent into these games as like, I think now we've progressed past the need to like show off that games are mature by hiring people from other industries.
Right.
But like, I don't think it'll take a couple years to ever sell Activision on getting rid of that thing, because they want to flex that muscle to a certain extent. It would almost, I think they would see it as a retreat, as a defeat, if they had to move away from that. Even if the like fact of the matter is that most people play for multiplayer, and so many games right now are finding ways to integrate story with multiplayer. It's not always the most compelling story in the world, and a lot of players still don't pay attention to it. But like, if you really want to satisfy that desire, you can do that. And Warzone has been trying and not doing a particularly good job, but they've done that a bit. So
yeah, I also agree with you that I think it'll be a while before we can get rid of our addiction to getting validation from other industries. It's only been a few months since Keanu Reeves was in Cyberpunk.
Exactly.
He didn't necessarily need to be in there.
Yeah.
He was great, but he didn't need to be there, and I'm sure he cost a lot of money. So
yeah.
I would have thought he would have volunteered, just out of the goodness of his heart.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm Johnny Mnemonic. I belong in this game,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree, Mikhail, and I do think what I'm most interested in the Call of Duty franchise going forward is what the business model is going to look like. Because right now, Activision is having its cake and eating it too at the same time because they have these $70, $60, $70 depending on the platform installments coming annually. No sign of that stopping.
No.
And then you have Warzone with its battle pass system, like spending money on cosmetics. The new operators are not cheap. They're $24 a pop, or the equivalent of. So I mean, I don't know what the latest economic figures are around Warzone, but like Activision's $1 billion company for a reason, and I think they have a model right now that certainly helps the stock price go up because it did a whole bunch last year.
Yeah, it's. I think partially like story is a value add on paper if we're just talking about like money from a monetary perspective. It's a way for them to cover their bases and say like, yeah, we have an experience for this audience that likes single player games.
Yep.
And then we have the multiplayer for the people who are paying for microtransactions. And
Yeah.
cutting that, I think you risk having to make the difficult pitch. There's like an unfortunate Activision executive somewhere who's drawing up the pitch of like, what if we cut the story thing, which costs us a bunch of money? And then there are going to be other nervous Activision executives who are like, no, we can't do that because what if we scare off like
We had
X% of
Reagan
gamers?
in Black Ops, in Cold War
Yeah.
Black Ops.
Right.
Did
Yeah.
you see what Reagan looked like?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing about about why we don't need single player campaigns anymore is because like for the longest time I always believed that Call of Duty might be able to improve the campaigns into something a little bit braver. But they keep making these half-step measures and then keep going back and then like I wasn't really impressed when Cold War Black Ops folks were telling us you can choose what happens, and it's like, well, we kind of already did that in Infinity Warfare.
Yeah.
And it didn't really go anywhere. And it didn't go anywhere here either. You get one or two endings. Woo, so it's not really changing the game for single player campaigns. They're not really doing anything interesting with the gameplay. They're all just push the camera down the corridor and having people yell at you, Ramirez, go do this, Ramirez, go do that.
It's so true. I do think that they have the ability. Like obviously, if they want to,
they have the ability. They do.
Yeah.
They just seem to be really afraid to push it further. So it's like but you're pushing Warzone, which is a really cool the way to do things, and it's like just choose one. But like you said, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. So
yeah, I'll be interested if at some point they put in place something like a Fallout in the Call of Duty universe. If they go that route, like that's basically the only thing they haven't really tried to do yet. Well, I mean, there's other.
I bet it's going to be a complete disaster like Cyberpunk.
It could be. I mean,
I think that's what Cyberpunk almost was, because the gunplay felt good, and the graphics were great too. So it's like that's kind of what I think that's what they were trying to do with Cyberpunk. That they were trying to make a really cool first-person shooter that looks great and that is like Fallout, or you can make decisions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just in a cyberpunk world, it would be cool. I would like to see like in the world of secret agents within Call of Duty. I wouldn't be against something like that too.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like that's an interesting thought experiment of if Cyberpunk does really well, do we see Activision try and like mirror that idea? Because with Call of Duty, they are basically chasing the bag, and right now the bag is battle royales, battle passes, microtransactions. And then suddenly you have this like massive AAA blockbuster. It is the best game that's ever existed. Everyone is super hyped for it. And you have this massive franchise. You have a lot of brand recognition. You have a lot of players who will buy in. And you think, okay, what haven't we done yet? Oh, we haven't done this thing that like Cyberpunk in this alternate universe, this game that is super good and super well received and just like hits on every note it tries to hit.
Yeah.
Like we should do that same thing. In that universe, maybe we do see a role-playing ish COD where you have really good gunplay. Like Cold War, I wouldn't say it like sets the groundwork for it, but there are some similarities. There are moments where you're walking around this like intelligence base and you're eavesdropping on
Yeah,
conversations
when
and
you're
you're
doing
talking.
the undercover stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you can choose a couple different paths along the way too. Like, do you go after this agent? Do you let him go? I think, yeah, if they were to lean into that a little bit more, like that was the most enjoyable part of Cold War for me.
Yeah.
Like the campaign was actually pretty enjoyable. I didn't particularly care for one of the two endings, as Mikhail and you and I have discussed before.
yeah.
But the second ending, the one that's like not the right ending, is
Yeah.
actually really good. Like,
That ending rocks. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, if you haven't beaten the game, we won't spoil it. But if
I already forgot which one the ending, but I remember yeah, I remember the one that you weren't supposed to do, or the non-canon one was actually more
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
The thing is that there were like fun moments in that game that genuinely felt like, okay, is COD doing something like actually interesting? And it was moments when you're walking around this like espionage hub, and all of a sudden like a TV goes out as soon as you enter a room, or like the lights change in one of the back rooms as soon as you walk in, or like a conversation abruptly ends like out of nowhere. Some weird stuff is happening, and you can do that. They're like, I am not going to invent a video game on the spot for Activision, but there's a lot. There's a lot you can do. You have a lot of talented people in your employ. Like, surely you could make a game like that. So
I feel like Call of Duty is a lot like the Marvel movies and TV shows. Whereas, like I've given up on Call of Duty doing something interesting for the single player campaign. Just like I've given up on Marvel, like going really deep on like race issues or like analyzing grief or whatever.
yeah,
Because I see all these takes about how Falcon and the Winter Soldier disappointed, and it's like I really didn't expect them to really go any further than surface level. Like racism, it's there.
Yeah.
and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of the right way to approach it. It's just like,
Yeah.
did you really expect Falcon and the Winter Soldier to solve the nation's racial relations
Yeah.
problems here, people? Like, is that why
It was
you
always going to end in some speech that's supposed to unite the nation.
Yeah.
What I didn't expect. I'm sorry to do this. What I didn't expect is the Walker ending, but whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you're watching Call of Duty or like vault over a really low bar, and there's one way of looking at it, which is like, okay, the bar is extremely low. The cool things are not that impressive because my baseline for a Call of Duty game is like non-existent. And then there's the other perspective of like, oh my god, Call of Duty just like vaulted over the bar.
Yeah.
And I think the first perspective is probably the right one, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm curious to see if they ever pull something interesting off, I guess.
I've been writing about Call of Duty for like 18 years, so like all of the same issues that I wrote about in 2002, 2003 are still ongoing. So
Yeah.
it's just Call of Duty. We just buy everyone. I'm
Yeah.
I'm buying everyone. I'm still buying them all. So
Yeah.
I still play them all.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think, there is still room for them to iterate and grow, and I think if they were to lean into merging single player storylines with multiplayer dynamics, like you have like an actual mission that you are on the Warzone map and it's 50v50, but like rather than it being a big team deathmatch, it's, hey, you have to protect the president of Verdansk or whatever, and some sort of alternative play mode like that. I think that could be really interesting. And then like the storyline progresses accordingly, and then you play the next installment like the next month or week or whatever. I think that could be really cool. But I'd rather, frankly, just me, I'd rather play that than another single player campaign where I basically know what I'm going to get at this point.
It's funny because Nintendo Splatoon 2 would have campaigns where one side would be ketchup and one side would be mustard, and then depending on who wins throughout that week, it would be ketchup or mustard. That's the winner, and that would determine like the story of ketchup or mustard, like ongoing.
Where does the Relish expansion DLC come into play?
I don't know, but they also did like shoes versus like they did all kinds of like funny like versus modes or whatever like that.
That's cute. I like that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things you can do in a live space, and I think about like the lessons COD should eventually learn from a game like Fortnite. Like in Call of Duty, there was a video essay, Campster, who did a good analysis of this. In Call of Duty, you're given like weekly objectives, but it's always like really dull stuff of like kill 10 people in this part
Yep.
of the map. It's just like totally check the box, like really dull lists of stuff, and nobody pays attention to that. Nobody does that. The primary mode of play is I want to be the last one standing. And Fortnite at this stage, like there are a lot of people who don't really play Fortnite because they want to win at the end of the game. They're playing because they are, hanging out with friends, having a good time, or they're getting certain rewards from doing these like weekly objectives that are more than just like a really dull like bump up on the experience bar. And I like you can tie narrative into that in interesting ways. And they just have yet to do that, but I'm sure it'll come eventually. We'll see.
Yeah, and like I said, they've done some of it with the Intel missions. I wish they would just bring those back and really lean into it, because I think that those are the more enjoyable side quests. Like you're saying, like capture 10 points or recon contracts in the Verdansk Mall or Promenade or whatever they call it, and it's like, okay, I guess if it happens, it happens. I'm not gonna tell everybody, oh, land Promenade so I can complete this arbitrary task.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for sure.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out for an hour, and I mean both the viewers and Mike and Gene. Mike, where can people find you on Twitter.com or in general elsewhere?
Yeah, so on the Twitters, you can find me at Mike Hume Post, and that's pretty much where I reside when I'm not in here hanging out with y'all.
Cool. And Gene, how about you? Where can people find you?
Just Gene Park.
Perfect. And I am at Leader Grev, and you can read Launcher and follow. You can read Launcher at launcher.gg and follow Launcher on Twitter and Instagram at LauncherWP. I believe that's it. Our sign off, as always, is have a safe launch crew.
Never gets old.
Yep. The perfect sign off.